Cashflow Diary Podcast, episode 189.
Welcome to yet another exciting episode of the Cashflow Diary Podcast, the podcast that teaches you insider tips, tactics, and strategies for creating leverage streams of cash flow into your life. Learn from top-performing entrepreneurs, business owners, investors, and thought leaders from across the globe as they share their secrets to success. Like what you learn on this and other Cashflow Diary podcast episodes? Go to learninvestingnow.com and sign up to receive powerful tips and information that will help you succeed as an entrepreneur and investor. Now, here's your host, investor, entrepreneur, business owner, educator, speaker, author, and master facilitator of Robert Kiyosaki's cash flow game, Jay Massey.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another episode of the Cashflow Diary Podcast. My name is Jay Massey. I'm your host, and I'm glad that you are here today because we're going to have one of those foundational conversations today. You know, inside your purse or wallet or wherever you keep this, there's something that you're dealing with every day that has either been helping you or it's been serving you. For some of us, you've been a slave to it. But here's the thing. You can indeed master this very, very fundamental and necessary skill set. We are going to be talking today, of course, about personal finance. We spend a lot of time, invest a ton of energy and effort figuring out how to go get and earn and create value and earn what we call money. Yet, how on earth do we make sure we put it to good and proper use? Making sure that we understand how to properly set goals for it and put it into the places that can serve us the most for the longest period of time. Today's guest is Robert Gignac, and most importantly, he has the ability to help you with something. And you know what I like about him already? The title of his book, Rich is a State of Mind, period. The book focuses on personal and financial development, and isn't that the truth? That's what we are doing every day, no matter what. Today's guest has been on radio as well as TV, The Money Answers Show, Peace of Mind Radio, Money Talk, and Boomer Wealth Radio. And today, he's here to share his genius with you. Help me welcome Robert Gignac. Robert, you there?
I'm here, Jay. Thank you very much for having me on today.
I'm glad that you have taken the time. And honestly, I'm just glad you care. Because not enough people, in my opinion, care and are willing to do something about it. And yet, here you are.
Well, I appreciate that very much. Though I do have to correct the one point where you said I'm here to share my genius with you today. I can assure you I have none.
Okay, well, let's see if we can pull it out. Maybe it'll develop right in front of us for everybody to see. What do you think?
I think that would be an amazing way to start the conversation.
Okay. Here's the thing, Robert. I tend to ask the very first question very similarly all the time. I tend to look at today's entrepreneurs a lot like yesterday's superheroes, you know, Batman, Robin, Wonder Woman, the Hulk, what have you. And just like superheroes, entrepreneurs go around and save people. Occasionally we get dressed up. Sometimes we think we can fly. And we use our special talents and abilities to help people improve the quality of their life. However, before Spider-Man was, Spider-Man and Batman was Batman, they were typically normal individuals. Something happened to them and they went through this transformation, etc. They had an origin story. They started somewhere. What I would love to know is before you were, selling tens and thousands of copies of your book, before you were educating people all across North America, before you were all on the TV and on the stage and helping all the individuals understand the inner workings of personal and financial development, who is Robert Gignac?
I was a computer geek and did that for the better part of 25 years. And then one day, quite frankly, I just got bored with all of the technology stuff. And it also, that boredom kind of occurred right around 1999, 2000, 2001, the first big tech implosion. And I was working for a company, and we made stuff that was so cool we couldn't figure out how to sell it to anybody. And when the Canadian operation of that company went out of business, I was then, given an opportunity by the universe to go and find something else to do. And as part of that, I had a conversation with a financial professional about money and finance and what people don't understand. And I said, but at the end of the day, the stuff really isn't that complex. It's money. It's not emotional. It's paper and coins we carry in our pockets. And he said, you really misunderstand how a lot of people feel about money. He said, you should probably write a book about that. And I laughed and he said, no, I'm serious. And I said, I can't write a book on personal finance. I'm not anybody special. And he said, you know more than you think you do. He said, you've been my client for a while. And he said, people need to hear the story. And so I played around, realized it was going nowhere. So I've got to go back to work. Went back to work. That company then decided they didn't need my talents after about 6 months. Rediscovered the book, polished it up for about the first 3 chapters. I sent it to him and I said, could this go somewhere? And within 48 hours, Jay, I'd received about 20 emails from his peers, people I had never met, going, this is great. When's the book going to be ready? And my first reaction was, who are you and how did you get my email address? And so I'm a friend of Mike's. And they got very excited about the book. And for the first time, I actually realized that it could be possible. And 18 months later, I had the book in my hands, holding the very first copy as I took it out of the box, which I can assure you was a very exciting day. And now here we are a decade later, closing in on 50,000 copies sold, Canadian and U.S. editions, speaking across North America on the concept of personal finance and personal financial responsibility. And yeah, it all spawned out of a conversation in a coffee shop and somebody saying, you should write a book.
And here's what I love about that. And that follows the typical superhero journey. I mean, the superhero was never thinking, I'm the one, we rarely wake up in the morning going, you know what? This is what I'm going to do. I'm going to take over the world, in your case, with a book. I love how the idea comes from someone else. And in fact, you said something that I don't know if everybody picked up on it. I just want to make sure, because with a title like Rich is a State of Mind, your state of mind has got to be something that you are constantly, I believe, Robert, managing. And I want everybody to have heard there were multiple times where we would commonly say, I got fired or I got let go and all these other things. But one time you purposely said that I was given an opportunity to go find something else to do. And I was like, yeah, okay. I like that, because the way you phrase that says a lot about how you view what is happening to you, and more being at cause as opposed to a victim.
I never felt during that process like I had been a victim of corporate Canada for what they had chosen to do. I've had a number of jobs in my life before exploring the entrepreneur route, and liked them all. But in any of them, I never had my identity so tied to that job that if the job disappeared, somehow my identity went with it. Yeah. And I think that's what makes entrepreneurs very, very special, because their identity is tied to the work that they do, not the quote job that they have. Right. And such that, when that job didn't exist, sure, did I have a moment of, holy crap, what am I going to do now? Yeah, everybody has that moment. But at the end of the day, it was, okay, I'm going to find something else to do. What could that thing be? And you meet with people and you talk to them, you network, all of the things that good entrepreneurs do. And out of those conversations, sometimes is where the genesis of great ideas come from.
Yeah, okay, and let's go with that idea for a second, though. Oftentimes, in the middle of that conversation, it is something completely, quote-unquote, out of left field that you may not have any background in. I mean, I'm guessing you didn't grow up, being a English major thinking, hey, one day I'm going to write books. Did you?
I can assure you, any English teacher I had through high school would have picked me as the least likely to put together a series of cohesive paragraphs in the form of a book.
That's
So,
I love it.
Even my mom and dad, when I told them I'm going to write a book, and they went, yeah, okay.
You're
I'm like,
right.
thanks for the glowing recommendation of support, Mom.
I know.
I said, but I'm going to do this, and they do what all well-meaning parents do. They pat their progeny on the head and go, "That's good, honey. You stick with it." And and then when I kind of wrote them into the book in a very subtle way, and they read it, go, "You're talking about me." Of course, I'm talking about you, not as mom, but as authors, we tend to write what we know and who we know,
Right.
and yes, the people closest to me can pick out all kinds of things in the book. This is your best friend Dave from high school. This is your mom and dad. This is your aunt and uncle. And sure, they're all in there, but to the average reader, not knowing my background that intimately, the characters are simply the characters in the book.
Yep. I just think that's awesome because oftentimes the journey path that we're supposed to be on presents itself that way as something that we don't have any natural quote unquote background in, yet you remained open to it. You were willing to pursue it, even though even though all of your quote unquote history says, hey, English teacher, you were that person who knew what your English scores were then, but yet you still said, you know what? Okay, I'm gonna write a book, and you were willing to listen and surrender to that impulse, and I think that's amazing because most people don't do that.
And it's interesting because people who know me fairly well, who read the book, and they said, this is really good, and my first reaction was always like, well, gee, thanks. Were you expecting it to be really bad?
Right.
And I said, but at the end of the day, I said, I think I'm wise enough to realize that I was the idea guy for the book. I created the characters and the setting and the storylines. But at the end of the day, trust me, I had an editor. And
right.
And as an author, and for anybody listening who wants to write a book, and trust me, I promote that all the time. It's a wonderful process to go through. But when you get the first draft of your book, the baby you've been trying to give birth to for a year, and get it back from the editor who has gone through multiple red felt tip pens by the time they got done with your book, to say, this is the genesis of a good book. And then for the next 100 pages, you're flipping through the draft going like, oh my God, she must have sliced her fingers open and bled all over my manuscript.
Yeah, you forgot to leave some ink in between the red. What's up here? You rewrote the whole thing. It's my book, not yours. Yeah.
And to the people who have that type of talent, to edit, it's a wonderful talent for them to have, and I'm grateful that they do, because I can assure you that the book would not be as good as it is without their help.
Indeed. A team is essential. So let's answer what's probably a question on everybody's mind, because you said when you were first having that discussion about the book, your friend said that you know more than you think you know. You understand more. So what is it that he saw, or what is it that you understand that we don't?
Well, I think it's a case, Jay, that when you have a mentor of sorts, and I'm sure you've got them as well, they see things in us that we don't necessarily see ourselves. And for whatever reason, saw in me that we had the ability to kind of transform my personal finances. People think you wrote a book on personal finance. You must have had this figured out since, your lemonade stand in grade school, and you've got the first dollar you ever earned. And it's like, no, I've done lots of dumb things with my money. I occasionally still do dumb things with my money. I try to do fewer of them on a smaller scale. But it happens. But through that process, I was willing, with his help, to change my financial behavior. And through that process of learning to set goals and not spending every dollar you had and then some, and being willing to pay yourself first, and being willing to accept the fact that you need things like life insurance and a will to cover the eventual issues that will occur in everybody's life. That when you started to package all of that together, he realized I knew a lot more than I probably was willing to admit that I knew, mostly because I never thought about it.
Yeah, we don't. I mean, most of us don't realize what we know until someone comes along and asks us to explain something, and then we go, "Oh, I guess I do know that." And one of the ways to find that out about yourself, like you said, is write a book for sure. You don't know what you know until you start putting it down on paper. But there's something that you said that I've been playing around with in my head, and I think is rather consistent and true. That this whole issue of money and how we handle it is more behaviorally driven. I don't even know if that came out right. It's more about our behavior than it is specifically about, our knowledge of particular investments or technical understanding of financial markets. What would you say?
Oh, absolutely, Jay. The concept of behavior as it relates to money and personal finance is huge. It's not the knowledge piece. We all know that we need to save a bit more money. We all know that we need to spend less money on silly things that have no impact in our life. We all know that we don't need to go to Starbucks 3 times a day, 7 days a week.
Now you're making it personal.
Oh, I'm making it. I try to make it personal, but here's also how I try to address that, Jay. Is I'm not against people going to Starbucks. Hey, I go a couple times a week myself. Enjoy it greatly. But if it's 3 times a day, 7 days a week, and you're having trouble making your car payment or your rent, then you got a problem. And all of these things come back to behavioral issues. We sometimes spend money not because we really woke up in the morning and said, I'm going to go spend some money today. But we spend money in some ways to, medicate ourselves against other things that are going on in our life that we don't like. And we use, that spending to solve a particular issue that quite frankly can't fix that issue, and creates even a bigger issue because now you've spent all of your money. And now you've got issue number 2 that compounds issue number 1, whatever that was. And it creates this really bad snowball effect that for some people can take a long, long time to get out of.
Well, you didn't behave your way. You're not going to, you behaved your way in, and that took a while. You're going to have to behave your way out, which is going to take an equally as long time for most of us at the end of the day. Now, but you speak to the idea of that using money, I'll say, as a crutch or as a medication to solve what could be a pain of some kind, which is likely emotional in some way. So I guess the question becomes, why would you say money is so emotionally charged, and it is as it is even today?
Often, Jay, it's the words we use to talk about money. We somehow describe somebody, you've heard the term, he's filthy rich. And by using a phrase like that, it gives a negative spin to whatever good work that person has done to acquire their wealth. We worry that we'll never have enough money, but yet at the same time, we worry that if we have too much, our friends and family will view us differently somehow and go, what did they do to get that money? I'll bet you it was illegal, immoral, or fattening in order to get that. And it's this push-pull. You want to appear successful, yet at the end of the day, we don't want to appear too successful because then we don't want people hounding us. Hey, can you help me out with this? Can you help me out with that? Because they think we have money. And yet, on the flip side, there are people who have created a lifestyle that looks wonderful. They've got the expensive cars, they've got the expensive suits, and they've got the nice house, and the kids in private school, and the golf memberships, gym memberships, and they're always out doing things. Yet they are one missed paycheck away from a financial pyramid caving in on them, yet the person who lives right next door to them, driving a 10-year-old car in a house that might need a new roof, and yeah, it'd be nice if they did a little more gardening and blacktop the driveway, could be worth $2.8 million because they don't really care about any of that other stuff.
You know, it's an interesting thing how it's emotionally driven, it's behaviors, it's all of these things that have absolutely nothing to do with your understanding of, you know, for you stock people, alpha or beta or your cash on cash return and all of these other things. Yet when it comes time, when someone says, you know, Robert, I want to do better with my money, I want to get better, you know, I want to earn more money, I want to do all those things. The last thing that, you know, I typically see or anyone sees is we start focusing on our behavior. So if this is such a dichotomy that's just like totally off, how do we get it right? What's the prescription? I need a pill, man. How do I make this better?
Well, the truth is, Jay, there is no magic bullet or pill that we can take that will suddenly make us behave better.
Robert, first you said Starbucks was evil, and now there's no magic pill. This is not going well.
I did not say Starbucks was evil.
I know.
Absolutely not. But at the end of the day, we want to solve our problems by reading a quick magazine article or listening to a soundbite on a podcast or the evening news, when in reality, sometimes what we need to do is take a long, hard look at ourselves in the mirror and go, how did I get here? Is where I am where I want to be? And if the answer to that question is no, then it's, who do I need to talk to help me to get where I want to go? And that's a very important conversation for many of us to have. And I try to have it with myself all the time. Am I doing the right stuff? Am I happy doing what I'm doing? Should I do more of this and less of that? And yeah, sometimes it's a giant shell game, moving stuff around, and things that I want to do, I know I shouldn't do, just because, well, it'd be fun to do, but it won't help my business.
Right.
And there are other things I go, I don't want to do that, but I know I need to do that because it's the right thing for my business. I hate going to the gym, Jay. I absolutely hate it with a passion.
I think we just had a lot of people say, yes, me too. But yeah.
And every time I go to the gym and I get home and I come through the front door, my stepson David says to me, how was the gym? And I look at him and went, the gym sucks. And he looked at me a couple months ago and he said, if you hate it so much, why do you go? Why do you do this to yourself? And I said, well, it's very easy, David. I go to the gym because I love Dairy Queen. And
right.
If I don't go to the gym and I continue to eat Dairy Queen, then I need to go buy new shirts and new suits and, you know, all of the stuff that goes along with that. I am willing to do something I don't like, which is going to the gym, in order to do something I do like, which is eat Dairy Queen Blizzards. And it is, as you put so eloquently, it's a behavioral issue. And if I could stop myself from going to Dairy Queen or just admit, Blizzards, I don't like them anymore, and never eat another one, I could stop going to the gym because it would balance itself out.
Totally makes sense, but I got a question. Does Dairy Queen in Canada have the Snickers Blizzard?
We do not.
What?
We do not. No, we do not have the Snickers. But the Dairy Queen Blizzard menu in Canada is subtly different than that. We also don't have the Butterfinger Blizzard here either.
Oh my God.
Much to my dismay. But they have launched a new one called Salted Caramel Truffle.
Oh, that sounds good.
Which I will admit, if I don't know if they have it in the U.S., but if they do, I would hardly recommend you try one.
Sounds like a road trip.
There we go.
There we go, spending money again. So I guess you bring up something when you start thinking about, when we do those assessments, hey, where I am is not where I want to be. I know the common answer is, I want more, or I want to be rich, or I want to be wealthy. And I would love to hear your definition of things like the words money, wealthy, as well as rich.
And this is part of the funny stuff about money, Jay. The concept of I'd like more money. Okay, we'd all like more money. And we know people who go, I'm doing okay, but if I just made $20,000 a year more, I'd be great. The reality is, if you made $20,000 a year more, you'd be in the exact same position you are now, because that extra $20,000 that you've earned or created didn't come out of nowhere. And what I've learned through my time in dealing with my own personal finances and talking to lots of people across North America, more money is not the solution to people's money problems. And there's a song of which I'm sure you're familiar with, and the tagline in the song is "Mo money, mo problems." And that's what we create for ourselves, because we tend to fool ourselves into thinking, yep, I'm going to work really hard, I'm going to get that promotion, or I'm going to get a bunch of new clients for my business, and I'm going to make $20,000 more. And the moment we do that, we don't just go, great, 20,000 in the bank, I'm good to go. No, it becomes then an inner conversation with ourselves. I've made $20,000 more dollars. If I want to make $20,000 more dollars than that, well, I need to upgrade my car and upgrade my wardrobe, and I should live in a nicer house, because it needs to go along with the mythology of people who make a lot of money, live in big houses, drive nice cars, wear nice clothes. When if you take a look at much of the work around money and personal finance and books like The Millionaire Next Door, that the average millionaire in North America drives a 7 to 10-year-old car, wears blue jeans and regular denim shirts, owns their own business, lives in a house they've been in for 15 to 20 years, and nobody knows.
You're bringing up a very interesting conversation that happened when my wife and I moved to where we currently are. And one of the things is I didn't want to move from where we were, because the persons that we were living around, typically we were on the higher end of the income earners. Therefore, there was never any temptation to upgrade anything, because anything that we would have wanted, we had, because no one else could go get something. Does that make sense?
Exactly.
And then we moved down to a different area, a little definitely nicer. And now our neighbors have a few more things than, you look across the neighbor and you're like, that would be nice, or that would be nice. And those types of things. And I think it's subtle influences like that continue to, work on our inner desires of wanting that more. And yet we can to some degree mitigate that by choosing to live in a certain neighborhood, well below where we probably could live, and vice versa if we want to help make that work. So that's just one, I'll call it technique or strategy that we've employed to make sure that we stay in check. What are some other things that you maybe know of that someone listening right now, something they could do today to begin this new journey, this new path, even if it's small today, but it'll pay dividends later? I just have a question for you. Is there something that you've been meaning to do, wanting to do, would like to see happen, but just haven't started yet? You do realize that, a year from now, you're going to wish you had started that something today. In fact, if it's something you've been thinking about for a while, I bet you had the idea a year ago and you still haven't started, and you wish you had started a year ago, because a year ago, had you started, now you'd be reaping those rewards. Here's what I want you to do. I want you to do something differently, i.e., move at the speed of instruction. Remember, guys, go over to cashflowdiary.com/free book. Get a copy of my book, Cashflow Diary, 10 Steps to Creating Wealth in Any Economy. Understand this. Until I started doing things differently than I normally did them, nothing changed. No matter how much I wanted it to change, no matter how much I thought about it changing, it didn't happen. Again, go get your copy at cashflowdiary.com/free book. For those of you on a mobile device, send a text message to 72000. That's 72,000. The keyword is book. You too can get the exact same thing. Here's the point. I would rather you be in a position of gratitude than regret a year from now. So let's see what Robert had to say also about this same concept.
If I had to pick just one thing,
okay, two. I'm fine with that too.
Oh no! I'm probably mentally I'm processing a list of about 48 in my head. But if I'm looking at what's popping up to the top of the list, and I know I'm going to annoy some people out there, and I can live with the flack, it'd be cancel your cable subscription.
Oh, didn't see that coming. All right, so let's.
And here's why.
Yeah.
I'm all for live sports. I'm a huge sports fan. I probably watch too much sports. But as it relates to your cable subscription, the problem with the cable subscription is it brings into your home a lot of things that we don't need to see. And the folks on Madison Avenue have done an amazing job at convincing us as North Americans, if you don't drive the right car, drink the right beer, wear the right clothes, go to the right restaurants, or have the right home gadgets and granite countertops in your kitchen, well, your life just sucks.
Well, Robert, I need an Apple Watch. Come on.
Exactly. And no deference to Apple. They make some great products. I've got an iPhone, love my iPhone, love my iPad.
Right.
I've got a couple of watches that I am particularly fond of as great timepieces. I don't see a need to wear an Apple Watch. But at the same time, I don't care if my neighbor buys one either, because if that's what makes them happy, and this is, as it relates back to the behavioral aspects and the emotion around money and how all of these pieces fit together, Jay. I've had people ask me at seminars, you don't want people to spend any money or have any fun. It's like, no, I want them to have lots of fun. I want them to have, and you'll understand where my English problems came from. I want them to have the funnest life possible.
Nice.
But as part of that, you only get to have the funnest life possible when you're doing all of the right things with your personal finances to make that happen. When you're buying things at the right time for the right reason with money that you've put away and saved and earned, the reward that you get out of spending money that you've done a lot of hard work for and saved up and earned that reward for doing so is much more, it's more gratifying than when we spend money mindlessly on stuff we really don't need that we think will make us happy that won't.
Yeah. So I think we've clearly now demonstrated that you've got, that superhero special ability, that special something to offer. But like any other superhero, once you realize you have that superhuman, that something, that twinkle, if you will, you have to choose. You had to make a conscious choice to share it. What I would really love to hear is about what we tend to call your superhero moment. That moment where you go, you know what? This book, this business, this something could make a difference, but you've got to change how you work and how you operate and how you interact with the world to become a completely different person to some degree. And what I would love to hear is where you develop the courage to make that shift over into what you're doing today.
It was probably, I can think of two things. And one was an email that I received. The book had been out for, 5 or 6 months. And I received an email from a reader. And they said, Robert, I wanted to say two things. Thank you for writing Rich's State of Mind. And two, to let you know, it's the first book on personal finance I ever actually finished. That particular email had a space on my filing cabinet for a long, long time because as authors, we wonder, we write the book and people say nice things about the book and you're selling some books. But you do have this moment or moments of doubt that is anybody actually reading the book?
Yeah.
You're selling copies of the book, and I have financial professionals, and they buy them by the case, and they give them out to their clients. And, my clients love your book, Robert. But in lieu of actually hearing from any of them, you often wonder, where's it at? Is it a doorstop in their office? Is it, did they get it from their financial professional? They went, I don't know. book on personal finance. I know everything.
Right.
And they give the book to somebody else. So that comment that it was the first book on personal finance that they ever finished made me think, okay, then the decision I made to create a novel about personal finances seen through the eyes of a slightly dysfunctional family, which made it harder to write, was worth the effort than creating a 7 steps to your financial success, step 1, step 2, that would take readers back to bad university, college, and high school classes going, oh yeah, here we go. Lecture from Dad, number 43, press play. and that they would never finish reading the book. And the other point was, the other moment for me, Jay, came out of an event that I'd spoken at. And as a speaker yourself, some days you just don't have it. You want to have it.
Don't tell them that. They think we have it all the time.
I know they do, and I share this even with my own audiences. That we have those days, and everybody asks the speaker all the time, "How do you think it went? How do you think it went?"
Oh,
and I've learned a long time ago that how I think it went was absolutely irrelevant to how it really went.
Yeah.
It's how the people in the audience think it went. And on this day, I just didn't have it. I couldn't find the rhythm that I wanted for doing what I do. And, there were things that I wanted them to laugh at. They didn't laugh at. There were things they laughed at that I mentally went, that's not funny.
Right.
And at the end of it all, a gentleman came up to me, and this was maybe a decade ago, and he was maybe a decade older than me. And he put his arm around me. He said, I want to share something with you, son. And I just went, oh, here it comes. It was as bad as I thought it was. And he looked at me, he said, this is a message you need to share with everybody who's willing to listen. He said, this was exceptional. And he said, I was honored to be here. And as a speaker, Jay, part of the things at the back of your head just start going on. It's like, I couldn't really? I had to feel that you had this much impact on an individual on a day when you didn't feel you were at your best meant the world to me. To now, every time I get up to try to speak in front of an audience, I try to remember that there's somebody in this room, and I don't know who it is yet, who needs to desperately hear today what that message is. And on any given day, maybe there isn't anybody in that audience. But on that day, if one person walks away going, I'm going to change what I'm doing to have a better tomorrow for myself, then all of the other stuff is worthwhile.
It's often money that begins to create that desire to do a business, but it quickly and usually successfully transfers and translates or transmutes into a mission. And it sounds like now you found that mission was just really, really clear, because once you take hold of it, it's like or once it gets a hold of you, rather, it becomes something that you just keep doing over and over and over again, because you see a small difference. And even if it's I often say 0.001%, if I made a 0.001% dent or change, adjustment in your altitude, aptitude, or attitude, then great. We're on the right direction.
I think sometimes what we all need to hear, and I go to lots of sessions myself, and I listen to lots of great speakers and download podcasts, because I'd like to think that, certainly I don't have it all figured out. And I'm pretty sure I'll never have it all figured out. So you go to people who know more than you, who can inspire you and educate you and encourage you. And I think sometimes what we all need to hear on those days when we've got money issues and wondering, where the next paycheck's coming from, or how am I going to pay my bills next month, that we just need to hear somebody whisper in our ear and go, it's possible. You can do something different. And it's never that one big thing. Sometimes as an author or a speaker, people go, what's the biggest thing I can do with my money? What's the number one thing? And I'll be upfront with them. I say, I have no idea. And they go, what do you mean? You have no idea. You're a best-selling author. You speak all over. What do you mean you don't have any idea? I don't have any idea for you because at the moment, I don't know you.
Right.
I need to know where you are. I need to know how you got here. I need to know what your goals are. Oh, you don't have any goals? Well, there's item number one we need to address.
Right.
I need to know about your behaviors. I need to know about what you want for the future. And too often we tend to look at that thing as wanting that quick fix. And when somebody, and sometimes you hear them on financial shows on CNBC or Bloomberg or things like that, Fox Business Network, and they go, here's the number one thing you need to do to improve your finances. I always kind of chuckle to myself because it's like, maybe that's the right thing.
Right.
But will the person who needs that thing be the person who's listening on that day? And that this is why I encourage people to seek out, some people would call it a mentor or a financial coach or a financial advisor. And often, Jay, it's guys. Women do a great job at this. When women don't know something, they will go find somebody to help them learn that thing or get educated about that topic. Guys, I can figure this out all by myself. I don't need anybody's help. And, so because, well, as you know, so many of us are doing such a great job at it already, that we see seeking help, particularly with personal finance, is one of those emotional things. Well, they're going to think I'm an idiot. They're going to think I've never done anything right and I don't have any money saved and all of those behavioral things. But the reason we seek out a coach, and if you're into athletics, the reason we hire a swing coach if we're a golfer, or we hire a personal trainer at the gym, is because they help us focus on things that we can't see while we're playing the game.
Yeah.
And if you want to call it life is a game, well, then having a coach who helps guide you through that. I shared this with an audience recently, and you're not a golfer, are you?
No, to my wife's dismay, however. We actually live on a golf course, and I don't golf.
You have no idea how happy I am to hear that, because I'm not a golfer either. And the example I was using was one of my good friends, Dave. And he was, I don't need a financial professional. I can do this all by myself. And I said, if I remember this right, Dave, about 6 months ago, you hired a swing coach to help you with your game. I said, how was that? He said, it was amazing. He said, I was shooting mid-90s. He said, now I'm shooting high 80s, sometimes into the mid-80s. Took 7 to 10 strokes off my game, made me a much better player. I said, okay, so let me see if I've got this right, Dave. You hired a guy to help you play a game that doesn't make you any money, but you don't have the time to sit down with a financial professional, talk about tweaking your approach to your personal finances so that 15 or 20 years from now you could play all the golf you wanted and never worry about how to pay for it. And he looked at me and he said, I hate you.
Oh, God. Robert, listening to you talk like that reminds me a lot of how we deal with our community when they're trying to write offers for the first time or get out of their own way to begin to do real estate transactions. And I think that's phenomenal. That's what I mean. That's what I meant by you care so much. It's a concept that we call carefrontation, not confrontation, carefrontation.
I like that.
And
I like that a lot.
You do it. And that's the thing. You can't have that conversation with a person without caring. And you cared so much that you were willing to let him and question. You didn't tell him what he needed to do, even though you could have. You chose to let him arrive at his own conclusion through a series of questions. And I just think that is awesome. So for those that have been listening this far and probably get that you think differently, you are just different in and of itself and would like to grab some more, what's going to be the best way for them to track you down, get a copy of the book, find out where you're going to be speaking next, etc.?
If they're interested in getting more information about the book, Jay, the best place to do that would be the book's website, which is www.richisastateofmind.com. So it's the book's title, all is one word. And there they can download a sample chapter. They can read lots of articles I've written about personal finance and money behavior, see video of me speaking at events for the financial industry across North America. If they're interested in following my blog or checking out my speaking schedule to see if I might be coming anywhere near where they live, the best place for them to do that is at robertgignac.com, which is my name, ROBERTGIGNAC.com. And there you'll find the blog and the speaking calendar, and also a link to the book's website as well. So they kind of link back and forth to each other.
Got it. Thank you. Now, for those that are listening, and this will be our last question, that maybe someone is standing in front of the superhero outfit store right now. They're ready to pick out, their costume. They think, they want to wear a mask. They know the color tights. They're ready to be put on that entrepreneur, outfit, if you will, and become that new superhero on the planet. However, in the back of their mind, they still have that voice. That voice that you had at one time that said, to some degree, who am I to write a book? Who am I to what do I know and what can I contribute? And seriously, business, me? They still have that little voice in the back of their head. What would you say to them right now?
I would say, imagine yourself standing on the edge of a chasm that's about 20 feet wide, and what you want is on the other side, or what you believe you want is on the other side. The thing you have to do is take the leap. The problem is that we don't want to take the big leap. We want to take the little leap. We want to dip our toe in. I'm going to try this, and maybe it'll work, and maybe it won't, but I don't want to commit to it, because if it doesn't work, then I'm going to feel bad, and my friends will tell me I'm stupid. So as you're standing there looking at that 20-foot gap and what you think should be your destiny on the other side, the one thing I learned a long time ago is you can't cross that in 2 10-foot leaps. You've got to make the big leap. Because if you only make the little leap and it's 10 feet and it's 20 feet wide, well, I don't need to tell you what happens next.
Yeah, really bad things. Really bad things. I got it. I definitely thank you, though, for making a deposit here with us and sharing what it is that you know. And you do indeed have some genius inside there, sir. So thank you for making the investment here with us at the Cashflow Diary.
Well, I certainly appreciate that, Jay. This has been an absolutely outstanding conversation. And if we have the chance to continue on and do this again at some point, I would be more than happy to come back and spend more time with you.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, you know what time it is. It's time for you to move at the speed of instruction. So what does that mean today? That means richisastateofmind.com, period. You are going to go out there, you're writing offers, you're building your real estate business for a reason, and you're going to earn more money than you think is absolutely possible. Just imagine, whatever you earn in a year, you start earning in a month, you're going to want to be prepared for that. I can think of no better way. It's been fun talking to you guys today. I look forward to talking to you soon. Until next time.